Welcome back, students. We're going to take a look here at multiplying and dividing fractions. And unlike adding and subtracting fractions, when we multiply and divide, you see what it says here? We do not need a common denominator. And so, in my opinion, that makes multiplying fractions easier than adding or subtracting. You don't have to worry about finding a common denominator. Let's take a look at the example that we've got here. 5 over 4 times 2 over 3. Notice the denominators are not the same, but that doesn't matter. So what we're going to do is just multiply straight across the top, multiply the numerator. So here we're going to do 5 times 2. That gives me a 10. And then multiply straight across the bottom. The denominators, 4 times 3 gives me a 12. And there's our answer, 10 over 12. Now, of course, with fractions, we always want to check before we make our final answer to see if the fraction can be simplified. And here, this one can be simplified. All right, what's the common factor in the top and the bottom of this fraction? 10 and 12 are both divisible by 2, so I'm going to divide by 2 on the top and on the bottom. 10 divided by 2 is a 5. And 12 divided by 2 is a 6. And there's our final answer in simplified form. Let's take a look at that same problem again, and let me show you a different approach. And this is what it's going to be. Instead of multiplying first and then simplifying our answer, we can simplify first before we multiply. So, how does that work? Well, here's our first fraction, 5 over 4. Can we simplify that fraction? Right, so is there a common factor between the numerator and the denominator? And the answer is no, because 5 and 4 have no common factors. But what I can also check is I can check, does this numerator 5 have a common factor with the other denominator, which is a 3? Do 5 and 3 have any common factors? No, they don't. So there's nothing to simplify there. Let's move on to this numerator, which is a 2. 2 over 3, 2 and 3 have no common factors, but I can also check this numerator 2 with the other denominator 4. And guess what? 2 and 4 do have a common factor, which is a 2. So we can divide out a 2 before we multiply. Let's do that. And now this is what we get, 5 over, look, 4 divided by 2 is a 2, times, now let's do this, 2 divided by 2 is a 1. So this is what our problem becomes, 5 over 2 times 1 over 3. Now we can multiply straight across the top. 5 times 1 is a 5. Multiply straight across the bottom. 2 times 3 is a 6. And there's our answer, 5 over 6. And it's already simplified because we did that first. So notice we got the same answer both ways. It's up to you whether you want to multiply first and then simplify, or simplify first and then multiply. Alright, so I've got a couple problems for you to try. Go ahead, pause the video, give these a try. When you're ready to check the solutions, you can unpause the video and take a look. Now let's take a look at dividing fractions. And so when we divide fractions, we get something that looks like this here, which is actually a fraction of fractions, because when we write division, we write it as a fraction. So you look at that, it looks a little intimidating, but let's take a look and read what this says here. Dividing fractions is the same as multiplying the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second fraction. So our division problem is actually going to change into a multiplication problem. Let me show you what it looks like. The way to rewrite this as multiplication is I'm going to take the top fraction and leave it just as it is, 3 over 4. And we're going to change it to multiplication. So multiply by, here it says the reciprocal of the second fraction, or the bottom one. Now this word reciprocal means we flip the fraction. So here it's a 6 over 5. When I write it over here in the multiplication, I'm going to flip it. So I'm going to switch the numerator and the denominator. It's going to become a 5 over 6. And now our division problem is a multiplication problem. So let's go ahead and do this. We can multiply. Remember, we can multiply first, or we can simplify first. I'm going to multiply first. So I'm going to multiply straight across the top. 3 times 5 is a 15. Multiply straight across the bottom. 4 times 6 is a 24. There's our answer. Before we make it our final answer, let's check and see if we can simplify. And here we can, right? We're going to look for a common factor between the top and bottom. Both 15 and 24 are divisible by 3. So I'm going to divide by 3 on the top and the bottom. 15 divided by 3 is a 5. 24 divided by 3 is an 8. And here's our final answer, 5 over 8. All right. So look, here's a couple problems for you to try. Take a look at these ones. Okay, you can go ahead and pause the video and then give these a try.